Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's the magic time.
The
I
floor
know. I
is
just
yours.
want to say thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
Of course, you're very welcome. It's honestly my pleasure to be here, even though it's remote. It's the best we got right now, so we're just gonna run with it.
And it's cool to see your face on a screen, Professor Shea.
Oh,
I'm
that's
a
right.
living being.
You seeing my picture on the corner of my emails.
I know. I only ever see your email photo, and it's cool to actually get to talk to you.
All right.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, or do you want me to um, give you the honor? But
I'll run with it. Let's see what I got.
all right.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Anjulia Rider. I go by AJ. That's just kind of easier for most people, and I want to be as easy and down to earth with all of you. I am just going to be speaking mainly from my experience in the business. I am rounding the corner on 4 years now in funeral service, and this is just basically my observations, my thoughts, my feelings. When Professor Shea reached out to me, this was something that touched me personally. I mean, I may not look like it right now, but when I first started funeral service, no joke, my hair was bile green and in a pixie cut. And, it was kind of one of those things that was addressed to me like, you got to tone it down. So, I'm not here to scare any of you. I'm not here to dissuade you from this path. I'm just here to speak with you. So please don't take anything personally, and we'll do some Q&A after I share my thoughts and feelings with you. And, if something really stands out, please address it. I hope to clarify it with you. So let me also say I have no family in funeral service. Out of high school, I worked odd jobs for nearly 10 years. I had no direction. I did everything from childcare to restaurants to publishing, secretarial, data entry, retail, hospitality. And after being a cashier for 4 years and being dumped in my butt very abruptly, I realized I needed a career and not just a job. So, from my own personal experience that I was motivated by, I applied to NEI at Mount Ida and was accepted into the program and did my 2 years and then just kind of went from there. So, one of the first things I wanted to address was non appropriate attire versus appropriate attire for funeral service. So, way back when, I dyed my hair for about 16 years. I had every single color combination. I had all lengths. I've been from a mohawk to hair past my hips. Standards were different when I was a teenager. And honestly, the way I dressed actually scared people. So if I was walking on the street, people would intentionally cross the street to get away from me. Or, parents would clutch their children closer to them because of how I looked. And, even though they treated me like that, I never acted out because of it. I would still hold doors for people, be gracious to them out in public because honestly, I wanted to be a positive change and not just have people think like, oh, it's scary and she's going to lash out at me. It's like, no, you got to lead change. You got to be different and let everyone know that we're all individuals. If we choose to dress a certain way, it's not because I'm here to harm you. This is just how I feel comfortable. And, honestly, what you may feel comfortable in may not be entirely work appropriate in a professional setting. So it's more about being adaptable than anything. So, depending upon what you may look like, you may have to opt for long sleeves or tall socks. I actually have no piercings whatsoever. So, anyone with some funky piercings out there, clear or space holder jewelry might be your friend and something to look into if you have visible piercings. And then if you have any visible tattoos, you might have to flex your makeup skills and just be able to cover them up until you get to a comfortable point. Um, But do whatever you need to do to amass a professional work wardrobe and kind of just make this clear distinction between your work clothes and your free time clothes. What I do is I call them my ugly work clothes. I have my ugly work shoes, I have what I wear from, the days of the week, and then on my free time I get to wear whatever I want. I don't know, my skirt. But yes, it's just kind of what you got to do to be comfortable and just differentiate those days when you're on the clock and when you're off the clock. By the way, if you couldn't tell, this is a day off, AJ, and we're going Fresh Face Friday. No frills here. This is just be comfortable with whatever you got to do. If you feel like after going to a few places, maybe mom and pop wise, and you're having some trouble fitting in, honestly, corporate is a lot more accepting of just individuals. It's a good way to get your foot in the door if you feel like you're a little bit too out there. However, prepare to be a cog in their machine. They're going to want you to sell, sell, sell. And if you're not comfortable with that, just something to keep in mind. But also, don't drink their Kool-Aid. Don't go down that path. They're really only looking at the bottom line and not caring about you. But if you would like some work experience just to kind of dip your toe in the water and see what's out there, might be something to think about. Then how to get and keep a job. So the initial interview is the same as any other job interview. It shouldn't be that scary. So just always remember to put your best foot forward. First impressions are critical. So even if you flub it up, it's not the end of the world. Just kind of move on from that point and just remind yourself, I can do better. Um, Good posture, eye contact, be engaged with your interviewer, listen and take time to think about the responses that you want to give, because that's really what they're looking for, is just what you can come up with. Also, be prepared for a curveball. So, my boss, when I was interviewing, he did the whole, what made you want to come into this business? And a lot of the standard answers he gets are, I would like to help people. He immediately will shoot back, well, what if they don't want help? And so, how do you rebound from that? Where do you go from there? And that's something to just kind of, you may think you have a good answer, but be prepared for a follow up to that. Also, get a sense for your interviewer. Obviously, you're usually meeting with someone one on one. You may have an owner and a manager sitting with you. If you do get to meet the staff that also works there, that's a bonus. You get to see the size of the company, and that usually makes a huge difference. Is it a small, close knit group for a mom and pop place, or are you just a number in a faceless corporation? Depends on where you go. Having a connection to the coworkers is vital because it's such a stressful career. Um, just once you get in the door and get moving, knowing that your employer has your back is huge. If anything is to go wrong, you want to know that your employer is going to stand behind you with whatever the situation is. And that's probably one of the most important things. Also, be a sponge. You are there to learn and listen and observe every single day. If you're there in the office on a day-to-day thing and you're overhearing the way your coworker is speaking to a family, you can emulate that. There's nothing wrong with it. You're there to learn. You can also pick up on ways sometimes they talk to families and you go, I didn't like what you said there. So then don't do that. That's important too. Also, I think one of the biggest things is be ready to admit when you've made a mistake. We're all human, mistakes happen, and how you handle yourself going forward will speak volumes about your character. So I know that's really difficult because obviously, depending on the severity of the mistake, but if you can stand behind it, learn from it, and move from there, that's probably the best thing. Right. So, expectations of employers. This is kind of my longest note process, so just kind of deal with me here. So as soon as you're in the door, you've secured your job, you're a fresh faced graduate. You're not expected to know every single thing on your first day. You know, we kind of overwhelm ourselves with everything that we study and that we learn, and not all of it is going to be applied on the first day. If you're asked to perform some menial task, do not take it personally. Like, we all have to start somewhere. When I first started, I was sweeping the front walk and watering the plants every single morning when I got in the door. I was there to get the cars washed and shine the tires and things like that. And I'm thinking, okay, well, Mr. Miyagi also started his teaching process like that. So it all just builds. You just got to get through it. And just because it isn't listed in your job description doesn't mean you can't do it, especially if you're working in a smaller funeral home. Like, everyone needs to work together to accomplish your daily tasks. And even if this is something as wretched as after a family comes in and they clog the toilet in one of the restrooms, someone's going to draw the short straw and have to clean it up. So having a team mentality is just vital. We're all in the trenches together. You have to be able to do your job and then do some other things as well that are kind of outside your wheelhouse. But then again, we have our days off, and being able to kind of take some time to unwind, then come back and get ready to pull together, that's important. Just also having a positive attitude, not necessarily overly optimistic or anything, mainly kind of keep it neutral but positive at the same time. Uh, Also, we're all adults. We need to learn to communicate clearly with your boss, coworkers. Emotional outbursts can happen, but it's always more important to take a deep breath, go for a walk, remove yourself from the situation for a moment, and then come back. And that's when you regroup and you get to be better than before and move forward. Um, this job can be difficult because there's no set time schedule. Be prepared to stay late, come in early, depending on the workload. And especially for a busy day, you have to bring your A game. You have to also be prepared to miss birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, special occasions. Sometimes this is nice if you want to get out of a situation you're not particularly keen on, but then also you're going to have something come up and you're going to say, I really wish I could have been a part of that. And you just got to reschedule and figure out something else to do. And it's the job. That's what it is. One of the phrases that I found that just helped was, what can I help you with? This fosters that team spirit I had mentioned, and it also makes the workload less of a challenge for everyone involved. So you may have a coworker that all of a sudden has 3 cases on their desk, phones haven't stopped ringing, you got deadlines, and just if you turn and say to them, what can I help you with? Is there something that I could take off your plate right now? Even if it's something as silly as hiring dress help for the next service, and you just have to sit there and send out a million texts, whatever. We always don't get to leave right as the clock hits 5. So it's just one of those things like, all right, at least if we all work together, maybe we'll get out by 5:30. Also, time management. Whew, this is crucial. So if you can get something done in advance, you never know what the next phone call is going to bring. So one moment you may only have one name up on the board, and then you're looking at 3 new calls that just came in. So you may have come in on a Monday morning, think, oh, we don't have anything until Wednesday. Oh, I don't have to do that till tomorrow. I think I can wait till later to get that done. Not in your best interest. Just get it done. When you have a few free moments, work on something. It's not time to pull out your phone and check social media. It's not time to scroll through something. It's time to get work done. Also, it's not about necessarily being bossy with the workload, but just being able to take a lead. And, if you're stressing out about something, this is also when you say, hey, do you have a moment? Could you just help me with something? would you mind? I know you're placing an obituary. I have one too. Can you just do this one after? You know, and really when you're running a service, this is a vital skill too, because you have to be able to give directions to your dress help. You have to be able to set everything up. Thinking on your feet is wildly important, and also staying calm when situations arise. I can give a quick little thing on that. Once I was running a service, family comes in and refuses to get in the procession line behind the hearse. Dressed men are flipping out, come running in, going, "What do we do? They won't get in line." And I say, "Okay, hold on, let me talk to them." And it turns out when they were in a different state in a funeral procession, they actually got into a really bad car accident. So I said, "You know what? I understand. This is a concern, and we didn't have any police escorts show up. So I said, if it's okay with you, when I dismiss the service, I'm going to have you go in your car and you're going to get a 5-minute head start to the cemetery." So, yeah, it's a little awkward when the family car pulls away and everyone else is still sitting there. But guess what? They made it to the cemetery just fine. Our procession made it there. They were right there, hopped in line, and we went to the graveside. You just have to be flexible. That's important. Um, Also, you are going to be working with people beyond your office. So, even just a short, long list: police, local and state, the OCME, not always enjoyable, lawyers, guardians, social workers, the people, especially it's always sad when someone passes away and has no family and you're dealing with a legal guardian, and they're mainly looking at the bottom line, but honestly they're there to help at the same time, so you just got to work with them. Physicians, nurses, their administrative staff, once again, not always fun. Clergy and officiants of all faiths. So you also have to be adaptable in that respect to be able to jump from proper verbiage of father or, rabbi or whomever you're dealing with. And also understanding the nuances of their culture and religion is also important. Bonus words, if you know the vocabulary for it, they always enjoy that. Um, You'll be working with cemetery, crematory staff and co-workers, and some of these people, I swear, have also worked at the RMV because they're just as miserable. But whatever, if you get them to laugh, that's bonus, but otherwise you're there to do a job and you just have to schedule something, so it's not that big of a deal. City and town clerks, once again, if something happens with a record and you need it sent back to you, once again, admitting that mistake and just saying, "Hey, can you kick the record back so I can fix something?" And once again, moving on. Boards of health, when you need to get permits, government officials, depending upon circumstances of certain cases. Sales reps for merchandise are always a special breed, let's say. Airlines, when you have to do ship outs or ship ins, that's enjoyable, and sometimes their personalities are quite fun. Caterers, florists, videographers, multimedia artists, depending upon what the family's requesting. You kind of have to say, like, "Ooh, can we do a fun slideshow DVD with this music and this and that," and putting it all together. No matter who you're speaking to, you're not only a representative of yourself, but of the funeral home and of the industry overall. So be polite, say please, say thank you, yes, sir, no, ma'am. Manners can actually take you a lot farther than you would realize. So it's even under pressure, it's always good just to try and say thank you, even if they don't respond and slam the phone down on you. At least you said it. Um, Altering your speech with families. This is a little something, you're not going to answer the phone and say, "Good morning." You need to be invested in their well being. One of the things, especially after taking a call, say at 3 a.m., when I call the family again at 10, I always just ask them, "Were you able to get some rest last night?" You want to be sympathetic towards them, but not smothering. Because this is just a really tough time. So you need to be able to speak with them, sometimes slowly. Sometimes you may even need to repeat yourself multiple times because they're not quite hearing what you're saying, or they don't quite realize the entire process that you're about to start with them. Um, you're also going to have to take physical and verbal cues from these people. More so now, verbal. We've been doing a lot of arrangements over the phone. I haven't done Zoom arrangements. Some of my colleagues have. I don't know. I feel like that's a little too much. This is fine with you right now. But if I was dealing with someone in grief, I don't think I want to be staring into a computer looking at them. Um, but yes, you have to kind of understand that people are handling their grief differently. And depending on the circumstances, you will be their verbal punching bag. Do not take it personally. I have had people scream at me over the phone, and they, even prefaced it by saying, I'm going through something really difficult right now, and I really can't handle this. And they start screaming. Take a deep breath, just listen. Sometimes it always actually ends up helping them a lot more, because then once they're able to get out a lot of that frustration and anger, sometimes it's even a seething rage, which is audible, which is a little frightening, and kind of glad I'm not sitting across the table from them. But it's just one of those things, like, people are dealing with shit. You just got to roll with it. You're also going to be working with people from all walks of life. So, once again, this is the adaptability. You get some really kind, laid back people, and then you also get some extremely wealthy people who don't understand the word no. So, it's just being adaptable, being able to listen, figuring out what is possible versus what is completely unrealistic. Um, and of course, as you're working with a family or multiple families, you also have to keep in mind that an appreciative family may turn on you in a heartbeat when something goes wrong. The entire process, everything is great. They're so thankful for all the work you're doing. And then there's a spelling error in the obituary, and they are going to turn on you and ask for your manager and blow up. And then sometimes you have an extremely rude family who, every time they call you and ask for you by name, you just kind of go, ugh. But after the service, maybe a week or two later, you get one of the best handwritten thank you notes you've ever received. So it's a little unpredictable at times. So you kind of just have to be prepared for everything. Also, I found that it is helpful to document everything that's going on. This is more than just the personal property intake when a body comes in and detailing what comes in with them. You may have a very tense conversation with a family, and you might want to write down what was said, what they're accusing you of, that type of thing, because obviously this is going to continue. So if you have that running narrative of what happened, you can sometimes absolve yourself from problems when they rear their head. And unfortunately, I have found some people are quite manipulative and will take what you say and twist it and then speak to your boss and try and accuse you of things. And it always helps when their office is fairly close to you, so they know exactly what you said. So when that family tries accusing you of something, they could go, no, not quite. So there's those moments too. If you are invested in your work, organized in your workload, knowledgeable of what you're going through and doing, and understanding the nuances of your work, then you'll be a well-rounded and indispensable employee. And I feel like that's something that everyone should try and achieve, because once you have woven yourself into the fabric of this business, you will have a really wonderful career and just a second home, essentially, because you're going to be spending so much time there and with these people. Um, One of the most helpful things that a former manager of mine said to me when I first started was, these people that you're dealing with are having one of the worst days of their life. You want to be one of the best things about it. And I feel like that just spoke volumes for our business. And basically, it's just remembering not to focus on yourself. You're there to serve the family. And you know, they may be unsure of what they want when they first start working with you, but you can definitely steer them into the right direction for what they feel is meaningful for their loved one. And we're just more than that solemn figure in black standing at the back of the room. You know, we can be there to guide them through uncertain scenarios and help them make their ideas flourish and have it be a very valuable and rewarding experience, even though they may not want to be working with you for a couple days straight or weeks or however long it takes sometimes. So of course, being a female in funeral service, this is always sometimes of a concern. Obviously, you know, learning historical background, women were the overseers of birth and death and everything that happened within the house. You know, it was really just the Civil War after it became a male dominated profession. You know, when I was in mortuary school, the majority of people in the classroom were female. And I even saw a statistic recently that said as many as, I believe it was 60% of individuals in funerals or in mortuary school are female now. So that's empowerment in showing that things can change. Um, you know, sometimes employers are concerned about liability issues and risks with women since we're perceived as weak. You know, if there's a house removal with an obese person on the top floor and no elevator, yeah, that's a really trying situation, but you can do it as long as you have help. Or, you know, if you're going to a dangerous area in the wee hours of the morning, and unfortunately, if you're by yourself, obviously, you know, you have to be able to protect yourself and communicate with everyone, let them know where you're going and when you're leaving. But also, just don't be afraid to ask for help. It doesn't lessen your ability, but it shows that you know your limitations and that you can vocalize your needs. And that's extremely important. Um, some families may gravitate towards a female, you know, since we're perceived as more compassionate than men. But I mean, break stereotypes. This isn't just for guys to tune out. Like everyone can be compassionate and empathetic and sympathetic to what is going on. So, you know, it all depends. But I will say strength training does help. I'm not saying that you need to be a competitive bodybuilder by any means, but having your core strength, the ability to lift, move, and hold weight is essential in this business. I mean, I can even just reference if anyone has changed a diaper on an infant. Imagine changing a diaper on an adult. It's just the experience times 10. So, you know, you have to be able to do some things that are quite physical, but it's not just a physical job. This is a mental and emotional and a problem solving job. So, I mean, if the physicality isn't necessarily where you're dominant, you know, you can highlight your other strengths. Sometimes ingenuity and thinking outside the box can make you a star, such as if you get a casketed body shipped in and the funeral home that sent it to you didn't put enough shims underneath it, being able to figure out how to get that casketed body out of the air tray is so beneficial, and also not breaking your back in the process is important. um, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, be prepared for some uncomfortable situations, and there may be some inappropriate comments. Depending on the severity, you may have to get your employer involved. And I mean, this goes for people within the office or outside your office. And, you know, wherever it does happen, you need to hold your ground. And it should not be tolerated and should not be allowed. And like I said, this kind of goes along with if you have an employer who has your back, they will stand by you and help you get through it. Last but certainly not least, personal time. Nothing is more sacred in funeral service than personal time. It is limited, therefore precious to us all. So, having this time, such as my time today, you need to feed your being. You need to have an activity to fulfill yourself and recharge from work. These can be hobbies or sometimes volunteer work or doing absolutely nothing at all. If you can't get off the couch, in your pajamas and you're playing a video game for 8 hours, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't put pressure on yourself saying, oh, I didn't accomplish everything I needed to. That's not what it's about. Sometimes it's just about recharging and doing what you need, and that's more important. So it's always good to gauge your exhaustion and kind of plan accordingly. You don't always want to be a couch potato. Sometimes you want to be able to go out and see friends, family, whomever that you haven't seen in a while and do something fun and engaging. But if you've just gotten off a week where it has been nonstop tour de force, it might be better to sit back and reschedule and do something at a different point in time. Also, depending upon what days you have off, that's sometimes easier than others. I know if you have like a Wednesday off, not everyone immediately wants to rush out to the bar and do something crazy, but you got to just figure out what's good for you. Um, Also, on your days off, you may get contacted from your work about coming in to help out. Don't be afraid to turn work down. You know, if you have an understanding employer, it shouldn't be an issue. You are not their puppet. There are laws to protect your well being physically, mentally, emotionally. We all need time off. And unfortunately, some funeral directors will wear it as a badge of pride, their exhaustion. And that's just not healthy at all. Um, when you are off, if you've been working on something, leave clear notes or instructions before you go away, just so if a question pops up, there will be less of a chance of you being disturbed on your time off. Also, in case they do need clarification about something, maybe it will be just a shorter conversation because everything's there except one little key element that you forgot to mention. Um, if you are contacted on your day off, don't be rude, just clarify it, and you'll be able to move on and get back to your free time and doing what you want to do. It's important to embrace yourself as well. This is your time off, so you get to dress and act however you would like, just to get yourself out of that work rut. Of course, work, you're usually pretty reserved and quiet and whatnot. So, especially on my day off, as someone can attest to, I like being loud and I like doing things that aren't essentially approved of in the office. And it's always funny when my husband goes, "Don't throw anything," because he knows that I just kind of like to let loose sometimes. I just got to let it out. Um, Having a support system outside of work and in work is necessary care that we sometimes forget to give ourselves. And we will expend a lot of energy and a lot of time helping others in need. And honestly, it's easy to forget about yourself and forget about what your needs are. And so it's good to kind of just be like, oh, yeah, maybe I got to recharge. Maybe I got to do something a little different to help myself out right now. Being kind to yourself, because nothing is more valuable than your overall health. If you are not well, you can't help others. It's just that simple. Um, Also, you can't carry this burden all the time. There will be moments that are going to be situations that could be triggers for you and hit you really close to home, such as sudden or traumatic deaths with suicide, murder, or motor vehicle accidents, long-term illnesses, drug addiction, eating disorders, stillborn, infant, baby, toddler, child deaths. Honestly, like clockwork, I don't know what it is, but we always have an infant or child death around Mother and Father's Day. It's going on 4 years of this now, and it sucks. Around the holidays, suicide rates go up too. So I'm not a huge fan of holidays, and that dismal time seems a lot darker when those start coming in. You know, you have to find a positive or constructive outlet for yourself, or else negative habits or compassion fatigue are going to loom large and you're going to be hurting a lot worse. You know, and it's also important that you're not afraid to talk about this either with your support system, whether it's a close friend or a professional. There's nothing wrong with it. You need to process what's weighing on you just so the load can be lessened. And that's hugely important. One of the ones that struck me recently was a 4-year-old girl who passed. We buried her the day after Thanksgiving. Her and I shared the same birthday. My birthday was last month. And on that day, I was at work and I was on call. And all I kept thinking about how this 4-year-old girl was not turning 5 today. And it hurts and it's awful. But being able to talk about it and just kind of process this and move forward is so valuable. And also, of course, don't forget to have fun. You know, whether it be your time off or in work, if you have that bond with your coworkers and you're able to joke around, you know, as long as it's appropriate in the moment, that is just so invaluable. Whether you're on the clock or off, you know, humor will help you immensely. And I think keeping that in focus is just something you need to keep in mind at all times. So, yeah, that's all I got. I hope that was extremely helpful and, you know, maybe answered some questions. And then if you have any more, fire away.
Folks can unmute yourself if you want to ask AJ any questions.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that was super helpful. And like, honestly, you did answer so many questions that have been like looming in the back of my mind. But I know it's kind of a personal question. I don't know if you're a mom, but do you have any friends that work in the funeral industry that are a mom or yourself? And like, how do you balance? Is that really difficult? Like being a mom and constantly, you know, like with the schedule, like just being so crazy as it can be sometimes. Is that like a really difficult balance for people?
Oh, yes. I do not have any children. I have my fur baby wherever she is at the moment, probably snoozing. However, one of my coworkers has 5 boys, and they are between the ages of 14 to 7. Yes, youngest one just turned 7. So she is constantly in a battle right now between their schedules, her schedules. Um, you know, it's something that she will vent a lot about. And honestly, I don't blame her. You know, she could definitely clone herself and probably get a lot more done. But it's also just finding that balance that's really key. Um, of course, right now, circumstances are slightly different. She's not as focused as, okay, who has karate, who has basketball, who's got football practice. However, she is looking forward to the summer when hopefully summer camps resume, just so she can ship them off and have a little more of her time, because that's, you know, valuable. And it's always good to engage with your coworkers, see what they're going through, because sometimes, you know, they weren't necessarily ready to vent about something, but if you are that listening ear, they will feel comfortable to speak with you about it. Um, Maybe someday in the future I'll learn that balance as well, but you know, right now, thankfully, I get to focus on our little small knit family, and just having that time to do that is so wildly important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you handle the moments where, like you said, there can be their male coworkers or customers that talk down to you in such a way that, like, you do have to respond to them, obviously, because you're having a conversation. but like that, obviously that whole like when somebody talks down to you, it's hard to not to lash out or to take offense or whatever. Um, I'm prone to tearing up when people say stuff like that. What do
Mm-hmm.
you suggest, I guess, like for responses, like polite answers that won't get you in trouble?
This is something that if you're able to put them on hold, thankfully, if it's a phone conversation, you do have that pause button. In person, that's when you excuse yourself for a moment. If you need to walk out, take a deep breath, please do. If you need to pull your manager or owner aside, give them a quick synopsis of what's going on. If they have your back, then in a moment, depending upon how heated it is, you can always say, that's perfectly fine. I understand your concerns right now. You have the right to feel if you're better served elsewhere, you have that option. Just let me know who's picking up mom. I will certainly greet them, hand over all necessary paperwork, and you'll be able to work with someone else. And I've heard people in the business say sometimes the best call is the one you don't get. And once again, it's very dependent upon the circumstances, how far along you are in the arrangements process, and also sometimes the scathingness of the comment. I have had some intense phone conversations where I've been on a conference call with 7 people who don't identify themselves, and all just start talking over each other and expecting me to validate every single thing that they say. And it's exhausting, it's draining. Hopefully by the end of it, they feel as though they have been justly served for what they wanted, but you're not a miracle worker. You can't appease everyone. And sometimes you are able to develop answers that can just kind of shut them down when they need to be shut down. And then sometimes, like I said, you need to walk away or hit that hold button, and just so you can let it out before you continue on if you choose to.
And how did you find outfits? I've heard several women say that it was difficult when they started because their director just kind of to look nice, but then
Mm.
say they came in like a pantsuit, and that's they were like, wait, no, I'm sorry, dress it. Like, how do you handle that process? Should you like always have a backup dress and a backup suit in your car in case they don't like what you're wearing?
Perhaps, but then also if you're in the prep room a lot, it's just always good to have something extra if you don't have like a set of scrubs that you're constantly working in, because it can get a little messy sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I mean, having a diverse wardrobe, honestly, you don't always have to reach for the pantsuit. If you're comfortable in wearing a skirt or a dress, by all means, please do. You might just have to throw a blazer on top of it, just to kind of polish it off. But honestly, as long as there's no logos or offensive sayings, I kind of think of it when I go clothes shopping as like, would this offend my elderly family members? If that tings yes in any single way, it goes back on the rack. If you find something and you feel comfortable with it, but maybe it's showing a little too much, just add something underneath it, just so then, you're not making anyone else feel uncomfortable in that respect. I think honestly, I prefer pants just because I'm constantly on my feet. I'm on the go. I would love to start wearing skirts someday, but my tattoos are mainly on my legs. So that's a little bit of a giveaway. So, if you have some opaque tights, that's helpful. Not that it's the most comfortable in 97-degree heat when you're running a graveside service in direct sunlight and there's no trees close to you, but it's an option, and you have to keep all your avenues open depending upon what you have. um, There are a lot of wonderful lightweight synthetic materials that are your best friend in the summer and not so much in the winter, but that's when the polyester blends come into play. Of course, get inspiration if you can look at different magazines and whatnot. I'm not here to endorse anyone in particular, but there's one retailer which I feel like has a polished edge to it, and I kind of gravitate towards their stuff, even if, like I said, personally, I would not wear it on my day off, but it's appropriate for work, and that's what's important.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
So
Don't be shy.
I guess I could ask. So how, like, when you first got out of mortuary school, being a female, what was that like for you? Was it?
I was intimidated, you know, to first start floating around my resume, especially having no experience, just like, hey, come on now, give me a chance. It's a little awkward. However, it's kind of one of those things that as long as you're able to display your confidence and show that you are educated, you are driven to be in this career, I think your interviewer and hopefully future boss will see that. It will resonate with them because we all started somewhere. And I think that is just an overall advantage.
It's awesome. I mean, like, I kind of teeter on this. I know, like, I'm pretty new to school, but I'm excited and I'm nervous, but I think I'm just more excited because I am very much like, I'm not afraid to meet people. I'm not afraid to talk to people.
Mhm.
I think I kind of have that advantage. But I also wanted to ask, was it strange getting used to like getting calls in the middle of the night when you go for removals? Like, what's the craziest like nighttime call that you ever had where you were just like dead tired, irony of that, dead tired, but you just were like, oh, okay, and just kind of like, rolled out of bed and like went and, did what you had to do.
Just to start that, I think it's the funniest. I just know that the answering service we have records all phone calls. So I always just imagine my boss listening to the hello, hear my, half asleep response when, okay, and you're dragging yourself out of bed and trying not to wake up other people and, you know, stumbling for the light and a pencil and paper and everything just to start taking notes before you make this sometimes awkward phone call. Um, sometimes it's only happened twice to me so far. People have sent a death email, and so all of a sudden, you're not getting a phone call. You're just getting an email at 2 in the morning saying, hey, dad died. I'll speak to you when I speak to you. And you're just kind of going, oh, okay. Well, do I hit reply or do I just call them? um, sometimes I think one of the challenging ones that I had, it was an out of state phone call, and the nursing facility only had two people on, and I couldn't get a hold of them. And I got a hold of them once after the initial phone call and said, okay, hold on. I got to call the family and get some directions from them before I, contact an out of state funeral home to help me with this transfer. And then couldn't get a hold of the out of state funeral home because for whatever reason, their answering service was having technical difficulties. And that one phone call turned into a good, oh God, what was it, 4 hours? Yeah, I think it was 4 hours just trying to make a removal out of state. And then you're doing that moment of like, can I make a 3 hour drive right now? No, no, no. Plus, it's illegal. You need the paperwork. But yeah, so there are some challenges. The brain fog will subside. You'll be able to get through it. The more phone calls you do, the easier it becomes. And once again, you don't know what's on the other line all the time. Sometimes people are relieved because has been a long-term illness and the suffering and everything that they've been witnessing is finally over. Sometimes you have an adult woman who is crying hysterically because her 97-year-old father passed and she wasn't ready. And you're about to say, did you really think he had another 10 years in him? I think he lived long enough. Keep it inside. But you just got to roll with it. And, sometimes you're not contacted directly from the family. Sometimes it's a family friend who will make the phone call, the initial phone call for them. And they're mainly just price shoppers. And that's fun when all of a sudden you're going through your GPL for 45 minutes explaining the costs that are associated with this. And they go, oh, okay, thank you for your time, and hang up. You got me out of bed for this. Why? So I think that just plays that I had mentioned. And sometimes, you I won't say her name, but I was dealing with one woman who was in the medical field at a very difficult hospital and was yelling at the staff when I was on the phone with her because she felt like they weren't moving fast enough. So I had to sit there and go, ma'am, 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 until I got her attention back after she was done yelling at the nurse who wasn't filling out the pronouncement fast enough. So let's just say you could write a very interesting memoir that may be on the New York Times bestseller list if you stay in this profession long enough. But no one will believe you. That's the best part.
That's so funny. I read a couple books by Caitlin Doughty. I read her the cat or those the cat can eat
Will
my
a cat eat my eyeballs? Yeah.
I also read Confessions of a Funeral Director from, I forget who wrote that. Nice gentleman who works in Connecticut, but I would love to read a memoir from you. I also had another. I have I feel like my brain just keeps coming up with all these questions. Like, I'm so sorry to ask these questions, but other things that personally I've thought about or I'm concerned about because did you do an apprenticeship when you were in school?
No. I actually worked hospitality as a front desk agent for a major hotel chain. So I used to joke with Professor Shea actually and be like, it's my day off to smile because I got to greet people who were on vacation. Although we mainly had a corporate clientele, so I was dealing with a lot of business executives. But if they were there over the weekend, I would let them know how to have fun in Boston. And that was essentially kind of my way of letting off steam, which I felt was a nice balance. All the more power to you if you are doing your apprenticeship concurrently with your schooling, because you are going to be tired beyond belief. And I don't think there's enough caffeine in the world to help you. So hopefully you have something.
I have a couple. I'm not gonna lie. I have a couple funeral homes that have reached out to me, and I keep telling them, this is my first semester in school, and I'm full time, and I have a full time job, and I'm just the thought of it, I want to so badly because obviously when I graduate, I would love to take my state boards and just go head in on this whole in the funeral industry. I would love to just charge, but I'm also kind of how am I gonna how am I gonna juggle all these things, juggle a full-time load of school and I can cut down to part-time at my other job, but I'd have to get a paid apprenticeship because living in Massachusetts is difficult. It's real expensive out here. But yeah, I guess I just have all these thoughts in my head that I'm constantly thinking of, but I'm super excited to get in this industry, and I'm so excited for the future.
That's good.
Yeah.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Okay.
I'm going to say that right now. Pace yourself. Obviously, you're the best judge of what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So evaluate, think about what you would like to do. Fortunately, I was a paid apprentice. Sometimes that isn't always necessarily the case. And so if you're trying to juggle school and 2 jobs, that's a lot. So just think things through, obviously be gracious to these places that are inquiring. But you. And I think that's most important.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Because I think sometimes I have had a couple of friends that have told me like, you're putting too much pressure on yourself right now. like you need to just like calm down a little bit, because I have that, I want to do so well at this, but at the same time, like I want to do very well in school, and I'm afraid that if I like overwhelm myself, then I'm just gonna like go crazy, and I don't want to go crazy because I just want this process to happen. But
Yeah, and obviously learning about everything should be your priority. Sorry, not speaking for you, but just when you're in school, you're there to learn. You're there to kind of get a feel of everything. And I remember, Shay, you might remember too, when we did our first embalming, I think it was at the end of the first semester. There were some individuals that were in the prep room with us that once they stepped out, they completely stepped out of the funeral service education program and switched their major to something else, which is fine because, this is a difficult job. It's not for everyone. If you have that moment where you realize it, that's good. That's when you can take a deep breath and say, what am I going to focus on instead? And there's nothing wrong with that. There were a couple people actually who even went beyond that first prep room experience, just later on in the curriculum, or they decided to do a concurrent apprenticeship. And they said, you know what? Not for me. And that's perfectly fine. That's just how it happens sometimes. Don't beat yourself up about it. You once again are the best judge of yourself.
mhm. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I also, again, I know we're not leaving yet, but I do really appreciate you talking to us, especially on your day off, because I know that, this is your time to, just do you and throw some things. Don't tell your husband I said throw some things, but go throw something.
Hear that? I got permission. And you're all very welcome. Honestly, again, it is my pleasure to speak to you about this because the more understanding that you have about it, the better you are equipped to do this.
AJ, thank you for, again, taking the time. And I was kind of curious, you touched on a couple of things, and one was when you were talking about the sales side of things. And I know that sales is not for everyone. And then you also sort of touched on the so that's sales being the front end of the business, and then you also sort of touched on the back end of the business, with having the prep room and things like that. And I'm curious, have you personally gravitated more towards one side of the industry versus the other? Have you split time between the two? What have you sort of how's that worked out for you?
So initially, I was kind of hired as the jack of all trades. I was the person who was doing everything from ordering to vehicle maintenance to maintaining the parts of the building and also prep room work. So, I mean, if I wasn't out driving the hearse on a service, I was prepping bodies. Right now, I have more so actually gravitated towards the prep room. I like to joke that I am the dungeon dweller of the building, and that is my realm in which you will find me. Um, I personally, in high school, actually, I wanted to be an illustrator and I wanted to go into that field. And so I did a lot of courses with art. And I actually found that prep room work, although it's a different medium, it is art in a sense. And so that's where my wheelhouse has now kind of gravitated towards. Some of my coworkers are more so, not that I'm not, but more so people person, and they like engaging and they like being in the showroom and doing the Vanna White and kind of showing off our selection of everything and what do you think you would like best for your loved one. Whereas I really find it awkward, even if they're a lovely individual, that wonderful point in the conversation where you go, So how are we paying for this today? Cash, credit card, check? What are we doing? Firstborn child, and it's just kind of one of those things that even though I worked behind a counter with a cash register for a long time, I really don't enjoy taking people's money. So I like being downstairs, where also this was my kind of joke walking into it. After being a cashier for 4 years, I want to work with people who don't talk back to me. And so I find that that's most rewarding. I have had some lovely experiences where I not only was prepping the body, but then drove the hearse for the service. And one instance clearly sticks out where it was a woman who had dementia for 25 years or so, and had been in a home and this and that. And so at her service, her adult children asked to see her one last time, and the son absolutely broke down in tears and was saying, "You captured my mom's look. She can't give me the eye, but she's given me that look." And he gave me the biggest hug and didn't let go. And it was just that like cathartic moment where, even though you might be in the prep room struggling for a little bit and you don't like the way the mouth looks, as long as you did your job and you did it to the best of your ability, you may be surprised with what you find and how much it actually means to a family as well. Um, you kind of also have to figure out what you're most comfortable with. If you're able to, some people like to gravitate towards pre-need sales, not only for the commission, but they just feel as though getting details in place is really their groove. Some people really enjoy the at work side of it, or at need side of it, and just being on the go constantly and like, okay, bing, bang, boom. What do I got to do next? Okay, that's done. Moving on. I'm trying to branch out a little bit. Being in a small funeral home, we have less than 10 employees and some of them are part-time. And so you have to be able to pick up the slack wherever the slack is and jump right in a situation and be like, okay, what phone call do I have to make now? um, so it also all depends where you end up. And like I said, what you're most comfortable with, just knowing yourself, being versatile, that's huge. But yeah, like I said, basement dweller, that's where I like to be. I don't like necessarily people looking over my shoulder all day long. So just being able to have that time alone is what I cherish.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
AJ, I just wanted to say thank you. I do need to step out to go get my daughter at school, but I want to say thank you for taking the time today to be with us. So appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
So can I ask a really strange question?
Sure.
You seem like you're okay with strange questions. Have you ever had paranormal experiences?
Yes, but it's not what you're thinking. So I kind of have to explain my basement setting. So there is a prep room, a garage, and the offshoot of the prep room is a storage slash washroom where the washer and dryer are and just overstock for a lot of things. So we had a morning where an infant death came in, and one of my colleagues took the infant case. If you're familiar with it, it just basically looks like a black oversized suitcase. She didn't know where it was, so I had to go get it for her because I just have a photographic memory and know where every inch of that building is. So I got that for her. She had returned, and she didn't put the case away. She just put it square in the floor of the washroom. So I was heading downstairs to start doing some prep work, and I saw the case. But not only was the case on the floor, my jug of detergent, which normally sits up on a wired shelf in the back of the room, was on the floor, but spout side up. So if it had fallen, it would have landed possibly on its side, or, whatever the heaviest side of it would have fallen on. but it was laying straight up, perfectly spout side up next to the case. And I just thought, oh, my goofy coworker doesn't know where anything goes and I have to put everything away. Whatever, shrug it off, move on. So as I'm moving from the washroom, putting everything away, closing the door, I cut through the prep room to go to the garage where the cooler is and pull out a body and come back around. Either a load of laundry or something was up in the washroom. So I opened the door again, and all of a sudden the laundry jug is square in the middle of the floor again, spout side up. And at that point, I stopped and I just kind of quietly said, "Hi, I'm not here to hurt you. This is just where I work. You have my attention." And I put it back up on the shelf and went about my day. Nothing since then has happened, but it just was something that I knew to acknowledge it and not be afraid of it. Our building that we're in has actually been a funeral home for 100 years at least. Not always us, obviously, other ones, but it's that kind of thing where, you may have to acknowledge that something besides you is there.
I'm so like intrigued by that because I follow a lot of morticians and funeral directors on like social media, and I hear their little stories about like weird stuff that's happened in the funeral home or in the prep room and stuff. And I'm one of those very strange people who is completely obsessed with everything paranormal. So I've just always kind of been curious. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's out there. It's whether you are attuned to it in a sense. We're so preoccupied, just a theory I've heard, with electronical things that it sometimes disrupts the electromagnetic field around you. And if that's really how these things manifest, being in tune to it, you may pick up on more than, say, someone else. I'm not here to say whether there is that thin veil or not, but it could be. So you got to be open to it.
Have you ever caught yourself like talking to the deceased on the table?
All the time. All the time.
I feel like I'm gonna be one of those people where I'm like, okay, Frank, like I'm so sorry, but I have to like slice into your neck now, okay? So like here I go, like this, like that kind of stuff. But
so it depends. Some of my coworkers will take it more along the lines of reassuring them that we are helping their family, whereas I'm more along the lines of, are you going to work with me now? You going to cooperate? All right, I got something to do. You got to come with me now. It all depends. Sometimes if I have a body that went through a very sad circumstance, I will actually take time to first apologize, even though I am not in any way, shape, or form directly responsible for what happened to them. But I feel like acknowledging what they went through and just saying, I'm sorry you're here on my table. It shouldn't be like this. And then proceeding with your work is sometimes beneficial. But once again, it all depends upon what you're comfortable with, where you live in your head, essentially, too. But yeah, all the time. Even on a side caveat note, I'll add that since I drive the same route almost 6 days a week, I name the roadkill that I see. And so I'll be driving past and I'll be like, Wilbur! Because that's maybe just how weird I am. But being around death and whatnot is a normalcy for me. And it's always funny when watching a movie or TV show where someone has maybe expired in an apartment and no one realizes it till the smell permeates into an adjacent apartment. I'm like, no way, you would have smelled that way earlier. But yeah, you'll catch yourself doing some funny things, and who's to say what is normal? I'm sorry if I scared you.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I mean, I hate to say that I was always that like weird kid when I was younger, but I've always just been like that weird kid that's always been like ever since I was old enough to understand what death was. Because my father died, he passed when I was a baby. And so like once I was finally old enough to understand like what death was, I've always been like really fascinated by it. Like what happens after you die, what happens to your body after you die, like different ways that people die. And like people have always found me to be very strange. So when I told them I was going into mortuary school or, you know, going to the mortuary program, my mother was like, why am I not shocked by this? Like,
Surprise.
not
No.
at all.
I got that response too, mainly because a lot of people I graduated with immediately went into school under pressure from powers to be, and either they switched majors a bunch of time or dropped out and wasted a lot of time and money. And when I eventually decided I was going into this field, and they go, yeah, I saw that coming.
Gotten that answer a couple times also too. My friends are like, I'm not surprised by this, Lindsay. Like, I don't like good.
Mhm.
Like, we're so excited for you. I'm like, thanks. Oh man. I guess like I also fall into that category of like just with like the tattoos and stuff. Cause when I started learning about that, I was like, you know what? I didn't take that into account because when a little background story on me is I used to live in Boise, Idaho, and when I lived there, I actually owned a tattoo shop for just under 4 years, and I was tattooing for 2.5 of those years. So I did end up getting a lot of tattoos because I thought that that's where my life was going. Long story short, did not end up that way. I'm now here in Massachusetts, married and in mortuary school. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was kind of like kind of made me panic one day when we started talking about it. I was like, you know what? I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that because I mean for a while like I personally, not even before I even like decided to go to school, but I've been working on getting some of my tattoos removed just because I did think they were a little overkill. But I'm personally like I'm in the process right now of getting some of my finger tattoos lasered off. But not the greatest feeling in the entire world, but I mean I get it. Like I get that it's not for everybody, and I get that it's a professional, you know, like place to be, or like, you know, industry to get into. But yeah.
Lindsay, I
Yeah.
was actually thinking about your hands the other day. This is sort of the weirdest way
I
I've ever
try
started
so
a
hard
conversation in
not
my
to
life.
on
But
camera. And during class I'm always like, hey guys.
well, so I was thinking about how you were really concerned about especially the covering of them, right?
Yeah.
Um, I know a couple of girls that have really bad eczema and they're really self-conscious about it on their hands. So they wear like little fancy, cute old lady gloves all day.
Oh,
And like it's like so poised and
Proper.
dainty and
Mhm.
lovely. I was like, oh my God, I should tell Lindsay about that. So like you don't, if you wanted to, you wouldn't necessarily have to get your tattoos on your hands lasered off. You could just wear, like when you were meeting with families or when we had like
Mhm.
wakes or funerals, you could just wear your fancy old lady gloves. And when you were downstairs, it doesn't matter because you know the only people you're working with are your coworkers. So
right. You know, that's
That
very
is
Victorian.
exactly the
I love
point.
that. I love like old Victorian things. So wearing like getting like investing good money in like a nice, awesome pair of gloves.
Yeah,
Really
get like satin gloves with a little ruffle frill around the corner, around the wrist, depending upon how long you need it. But yes, absolutely. I have seen other individuals, heavily tattooed individuals, let's say, doing that. So, I mean, if you don't want to put yourself through that excruciating pain, it's an avenue to consider, let's say. And, you know, maybe just be prepared in the interview process if they say, oh, those are some interesting gloves, and just say, you don't have to lie, obviously, but just say, you know, I'm a little self conscious about it, and this is how I choose to present myself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that for both of you because I'm not gonna lie, when we had a class that we had kind of discussed it in, and I want to be in this industry so badly, and I want people to take me seriously so badly because I know that I'm still new to school, but like it's something that I'm so passionate about and something that I want so badly. And so like after that class, I kind of called my husband and I had to go to school, like work right after that class. And I'm not going to lie, I bawled my eyes out the entire way to work because I thought that I was like, you know, this is all I've ever wanted and I'm not going to do it because I messed my whole life up getting these tattoos. And I was just in like a state of like panic for the rest of the day at work. I'm not gonna lie. But I do, you know, because I want to be professional, but I also know that, like, you know, people are getting more open-minded to stuff like that. But I also know, on the other note, you know, you work with a lot of elderly folks and a lot of like like you said, different religions, and I just want to be respectful of everybody, and I don't want to like make anybody mad or like feel like I'm, you know, disrespecting anybody, or, you know, like we all want to do this to help people. The last thing I want to do is make someone be even more upset than they already are in that present moment of, you know, losing a loved one. And it's just been on my mind. So
two things from that. Perceptions are changing. Absolutely. There are sometimes grannies that I see coming in that will have like a streak of color in their hair and they'll say, "Oh, my granddaughter talked me into this the other day at the salon." And you're like, yeah, that's what we need. But also, Shay, you might remember I had a conversation after a lab, and I unfortunately suffered an injury when I was a teenager, and I lost the use of my right arm for several months. And unfortunately, I have not been able to heal from it or regain the majority of my strength. And I approached Professor Shea after the lab because I wasn't able to suture skin. And I was right there ready to drop the program, because if I'm not capable of doing this in a lab environment, how would I be able to do this for work day in and day out? And, you know, luckily it was very tough skin, so it wasn't just me. But you will find ways to accommodate yourself. You will find ways to work around challenges. It may take a little ingenuity or maybe some frilly grandma loves, but you know what? You will find a way to adapt and overcome. And if you're able to do that, then you're good, you're golden. You'll be able to persevere and get through this and find yourself in a very fulfilling career.
Well, thank you for that. I honestly can't express like I feel like I'm getting emotional right now. Like that helps a lot with my peace of mind continuing on with the program.
Good.
I feel so bad we've kept you for like over an hour and it's your day off, and I'm just like,
No, it's fine. It's kind of one of those things that, as long as your support network is understanding of sometimes the time and conflicts that will arise, you know, being on call, especially, it's not a prison sentence. Just don't like go to the movies. You know, you always have to just plan that you're going to be interrupted. So don't go on, you know, an excellent romantic dinner getaway if you know you're on call, because if something happens, you're only going to upset someone else besides yourself. You know, it's just common sense, really. And time is precious. It's something that we don't get a lot of, and we don't know how much we have. So treasure it when you do have it, but it's not the end all be all. Like, honestly, I'm so happy to be doing this with you right now. And if you wanted to talk to me for another hour or so, I don't mind. I didn't schedule anything.
I'm so sad though. I feel like there were a couple more females that were in our class that were going to join today, and I wish they were here.
That's why it's being recorded.
But well, I just wanted to say thank you. I do have to get out of here and start the rest of my afternoon, but thank you so much for coming and talking with us. I really appreciate everything that you said.
Of course, you're very welcome. And I hope that, you know, maybe I put some of your nerves down a little bit. You know, you're not as anxious about this and you're able to continue with the program. And I know you all will do amazing. And maybe someday I'll even catch you out at a cemetery and you'll be able to come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm meeting you in person and not just behind a screen." Even though I'll look like this, but that's okay. We all will.
That would be awesome. And well, bye guys.
Bye. Yes, so many more of my, yeah, I'll let you go soon too, but so many. I feel like a sense of calm now. And like I really appreciate it, Professor Shea, for you like putting this together and just yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while. So well, ever since I found out that it was gonna happen, I was like, yes.
I were able to do this when, when Jessica brought that to my attention. I said, oh, I think I got the perfect person that can talk to you because, there's,
Yeah.
I mean, like I was telling AJ before you signed on, I mean, me and Jeff can talk till we're blue in the face about a lot of things, and you guys are only going to get one perspective. I like being able to bring somebody in like AJ from the outside. And thank you, AJ, for doing this. And I like being able to bring somebody in because one, it's a different voice. You guys are listening to someone else tell you the same thing we're telling you, but from a different perspective. And she's able to, but again, we have someone like AJ that can obviously can talk from a completely different perspective than you'd never take me or Jeff seriously if we tried to tell you the same thing. Whereas AJ can talk to that, which is good. So, especially being female too, that's the other aspect, the female part. So, me and Jeff, we just can't do that part. It's just really hard,
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but it costs a lot of money.
I mean, I'm sure I could pull it off if I tried. Sure. I look really,
Plus,
what can I say?
plus, you got to show them, my crazy purple mohawk and like all my hairstyles. I'll have to dig through the archives of photos, and you're gonna go, that's the same person. And it's funny because some of my coworkers knew about it because I got to a point where I was comfortable enough to say this to them, and some people still don't know in my office. And not that for better for worse, but it's just you kind of have to feel people out. And if they're okay and on the same level of insanity with you, then more power to you. You have a stronger bond. And then if you're dealing with an upper 70s white male who has been in the business for over 50 years and knows things because he's seen it all, you don't necessarily want to go, when I was at the punk shows back in the day with my purple mohawk and kicking people in the face with my Doc Martens, like you just won't relate as much. Just throwing that out there.
Oh man, I still have a pair of Doc Martens I wear every single day. I'll have to get some more professional shoes.
As long as you polish them, it's fine. It's fine.
They're nice and shiny. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Actually, this is basically what I looked like when I started mortuary school. Oh, I don't know if that's gonna, yeah, but it's green. It's short. I'll turn your brightness down.
That's on. Green looks good on you. Looks very good on you.
I miss
blended
it.
into our wall. Our wall was the same puke green color, and I have a picture of it somewhere. I'd have to find it, but she actually she was looking in the microscope, and her head was green screened into the wall behind her because it was the same color, and that was horrible. It was Monet's branding method. But
Yeah. Oh,
basically, there's AJ over the microscope with no head on, looking into the microscope.
I blended entirely.
Oh my God.
Now that I have it up real quick, hold on. Where's my purple mohawk? Oh, voila.
Yeah, we got the joys of watching AJ's hair grow out over the time. Oh, there you go.
Ooh, that is fabulous.
It was a foot tall. I couldn't even ride in a car. I used to have to ride my head out the window. It was that long.
I had friends that had mohawks, but I never had the cojones to like do it myself. But I had so many friends.
Have a nice shaped head. That's the beginning stage of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great though.
Well, as the oldest person on this call, I think I would be remiss, but to bring up the fact that the original punks are almost in their 70s at this point. So
Yeah.
It's
I am not worthy. I am not worthy of your like.
So it's
you
kind
always
of
hope for those people to walk through your door because then you can have that commonality. If they want to play Sid Vicious's My Way as the outro for their service, you're like, I'm there. I already have it on my MP3 player. Don't worry about it. I got you covered.
Oh, that's awesome. I guess I have one more question since we've got you on the line. So was there any particular like semester of school that seemed more overwhelming to you than another? Or was it all just kind of like holy shit? Excuse my language.
No, it's okay. I was questioning if I could swear too. I was trying to keep it, but yeah. I think sometimes it was more so, I mean, the workload was always kind of the same. I always had a full schedule. I believe that's 8 classes each semester, something like that. More so the teacher. Sometimes you get a teacher who you don't necessarily agree with, whether it is in your major field of study or one of the required classes. And, sometimes you just can't do anything to appease them. And it's one of those things where you're driving yourself up a wall going, this doesn't affect my major in any way. Why do I have to take this stupid course other than it's a prerequisite to whatever I have to do later? And honestly, I have always found that humor will help you through things. That was always my goal at the hotel, at least. Like if someone came up with a complaint, if you can have them laughing before they leave the front desk, then at least their anger and everything has been diminished. Not that you're diminishing their complaint, but that they're kind of a little bit more on your side now. So no joke, I think the only reason I got through my accounting course was because I used to email my teacher jokes. And so she liked me. And she was in the accounting world for over 30 years and major player for the SEC and everything like that. And numbers don't stick with me very well. I actually have number dyslexia. And so that class was absolute hell. And like I said, I got through it by making her laugh. And so I swear, whenever she would have my test, she'd go, oh, but AJ is funny. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt here and just give her a passing grade. And I got through it. It's kind of one of those things where you will stress out in the moment when midterms come and finals come and papers and whatever, and you think your GPA is going to cripple you once you get outside of school. Not necessarily. Not saying don't do well in your coursework, but just, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and you got to play into your strengths. Otherwise, you're just going to be beating yourself up the entire time.
It's so funny that you say, like, I don't even need this class for my major, because I do have one class this semester that every time we have a class, she wants us to write a 2-page paper on what we talked about. And every time I look at my husband and I'm like, I don't feel like this is going to benefit me in the future, but I know that, like, I know it will, and I'm just joking, but I have had that moment where I'm like, why did she make us write a paper for every single class we have? I don't understand. I was like, I can't write a 2-page paper on this topic, because yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. But
it's tough. You get through it. I promise you'll get through it.
So far, I'm happy to say that I have good grades in all my classes. So far, I'm excited about that.
Good. Well, you have the streak going. You just got to keep going with that. You'll make it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. My husband tells me all the time. He's like, not even I was as dedicated to school as you are right now when I was in college, because he did the right out of school, went to college. I went to college for a semester, dropped out, and bought a tattoo shop. So I decided, almost like 10 years later, I was like, I'm gonna go back to school. But yeah, my husband's a great support system to this whole thing. And I have a friend who's in nursing school right now, so her and I kind of get to have that witty banter of like, how many assignments do you have this week? Like, how did you get your homework done? Have you studied? I love texting her and being like, you studied for that test, right? Like, you studied for that test, right? Because I'm gonna come over and kick your butt if you don't. But yeah.
Like I said, support systems, they are so vital to not only school in all aspects of life, but this career, you need to have that bond, whether it be with one person, multiple people, doesn't matter. It's going to help you get through this.
Well, thank you so much. I guess I won't keep you any longer unless David has anything to ask you, but I just want to say, yeah, for 100 times, thank you. Thank you for easing any kind of anxiety that I've had since this whole thing has begun.
If you want to know about anxiety, ask Professor Shea how much I used to email him.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I email him all the time too. I'm like, I'm sending him an email, I want to hide. Like I hit send and I'm just like, hey, like. Oh
I'm sure the Mount Ida servers have been faded away. The ones and zeros are gone, but I think we had some pretty fun exchanges. And, honestly, I kind of wish I should have framed some of those emails of like my freakouts, my absolute freakouts at some points. But we all have them. Sometimes that's what you need to blow off stress. Just sit there and hit the keyboard a bunch of times. Like, I can't do this. It gets you through. I promise. Whatever you need to do to get through.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
But yes, once again, the pleasure has been all mine. If you think of any additional questions or follow-up things or just tidbits, feel free to pass them along. We have communication channels that are out there. And like I said, someday I really hope to meet you all in person and have that moment of, you made it. Congratulations. It's such a good feeling. Whether you stay in the Commonwealth or you go elsewhere, doesn't matter. Maybe I'll be calling you one day to do a transfer or a trade call, and I'm going to say, hey, congrats, you made it. All right, what's your minship?
Well, I do hope that I get to meet you in one day as well. Meet you in person one day as well. I apologize. Today is also my day off from work. So I'm just like drinking coffee and cleaning my house. But
oh, sounds too familiar.
And also, Professor, I am studying for my midterm. So I just wanted to put a little halo on, and yes.
Well, this is just as important as studying, so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day off and get to just like relax and hang out with your hubby and your fur child. And my fur child's in the other room too.
Good. Well, thank you again for having me, and just thanks, for listening to my nuggets of wisdom. As I hope they're helpful.
Really helpful. Thank you. I know I know that on class, well, when we have class, not on midterm day, but the next Tuesday, a couple of people in that class are going to be like, "Oh, I'm so mad I missed it," and I'm going to be like, "Yeah, you should come." Oh, don't worry, I'll give him shit for it later.
Good. And they'll be able to watch the recording and see everything after the fact. And yeah.
I'll get to see this. Hey guys.
Maybe we can do this every year. Maybe this can be a routine thing. So
yeah.
And maybe it won't be virtual eventually either.
Actually have you down to the campus.
Yes, of course.
Can't wait to get to the campus. I think Professor Magna was saying that he thinks we're gonna be on campus next semester, right? Because we have to do like embalming and stuff.
Yeah, embalming's at the clinical sites, not at the campus. So either way, you're still embalming next semester on the clinical sites, regardless if we're in person or not. You're still embalming off site. But our hope, the default for the college is to be online next semester. Actually, it's by Zoom.
Okay.
And our department is saying, "Oh no, we want to be in person." So we're going to train here. And we're going to do our best. We may not have all the classes in person because you have to have time between classes to clean, but we're going to do our best. We'll get there.
Professor Magna promised me he would show me the mummy and the skeleton, so I am holding him to that.
Oh, you still have the mummy?
I still have the mummy. I still have the fetal remains.
I was going to say the fetus too.
I still have when we closed, the day we brought your bodies out in the body bag thing, guess what else went in my truck to get out there? Oh, yeah, those things were not left to the moving truck. Those are way too valuable. So those spent a summer actually at my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because
There's nothing wrong with that.
well,
That's really cool.
yeah, we were. I was. Well, the last thing I wanted to find out was in the middle of like the summer and find out something went awry and the moving truck didn't grab something and or find out something went wrong and then find out it didn't make it in transit and I'm like, or they're jostling a fragile mummy. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah. Ooh.
we'll wrap it all going. So yes, those fragile items may have temporarily, and the college is well aware of this, may have temporarily made a side trip for safety purposes of the artifacts. We're still missing quite a bit actually. We're still missing a lot of equipment that didn't make it.
Oh,
Yeah, moving truck didn't grab everything.
Well, I'm
they're
excited.
cool. I promise you'll love them.
Super excited to see them. When he said when we were doing the part about, I think it was like the very first or second week of school, and we were learning about Egyptian history. He was like, "We actually have a mummy," and I was like, "You're gonna show me that mummy, sir? Thank you."
You can look, but you can't touch.
Yes, no, don't touch it.
I can
Very
open
respectful.
the bed, but yeah, just don't touch them. And then,
I'm really looking forward to it.
oh yeah, now we'll get you guys back in person. We'll get you there.
Cool, awesome. Alrighty, well, I hope both of you enjoy your day, and thank you again. Thank you again.
You're
And
welcome.
It was great to finally like see you in person and like get to like talk to you virtually, but hey,
Yeah.
step closer than email, right?
Mm-hmm. All
Alrighty.
right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you later.
Bye.